"You're not dying tonight." Eva Morales whispered the words with fierce determination, her gloved hands pressed firmly against the bleeding wound on the stranger's chest. The hospital's emergency room buzzed around her, but this man, this nameless, unconscious man, had been wheeled into a corner and effectively abandoned. "Nurse Morales, we have priority cases. Leave him." Dr. Vega's voice cut through the chaos, cold and dismissive. Eva didn't look up. "He'll bleed out. He has no ID, no insurance. The gunshot victims from the bus crash take priority." The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows across the stranger's pale face. Handsome, Eva noticed absently, despite being covered in blood and grime. Mid-30s perhaps, with dark hair and expensive clothes now torn and soaked crimson. 3 minutes, she bargained, reaching for a suture kit. "I can stabilize him." Dr. Vega's expression hardened. "That's against protocol, Nurse Morales. On your head be it." The doctor walked away, leaving Eva alone with the dying man. The hospital was understaffed, overworked, and this man, whoever he was, had been deemed expendable by the system. Eva worked quickly, her training taking over. The wound was deep, a stab wound that had narrowly missed his heart. Whatever happened, to him, someone had wanted him dead. As she cleaned and sutured, she found herself talking to him, a low, steady stream of encouragement. "Stay with me. Breathe. That's it. You're fighting. Good." His vitals were weak but stabilizing. Eva connected an IV, administered antibiotics, and checked his pupils. No response to light. Concussion probably. "Who did this to you?" she murmured, noting bruises on his wrists, suggesting he'd been restrained. "And why were you dumped at our doorstep?" The public hospital in this part of the city received its share of violence victims, but something about this case felt different. No wallet, no phone, no identification of any kind. Just an expensive watch that somehow hadn't been stolen, and a small tattoo on his shoulder, a stylized cross with a phoenix rising through it. For nearly 4 hours, Eva monitored him between her other patients. The night shift dragged on, the emergency room gradually emptying as dawn approached. Against all odds, the stranger was stable. His breathing had evened out, and color had returned to his face. When she checked on him at 5 a.m., his eyes fluttered open briefly. Dark, intense eyes that locked onto hers for just a moment before closing again. "You're safe," she told him. Though, she wasn't sure that was true. Rest. Eva's shift ended at 6. She filled out the minimal paperwork possible. Unnamed male, approximately 35 years old, stab wound to the chest, contusions to the head and torso, and handed over his care to the morning nurse. "Keep an eye on this one," Eva said. "He shouldn't be moved yet." She walked home in the gray morning light, her scrubs hidden under a worn jacket. Her tiny apartment was only 15 minutes from the hospital, in a neighborhood that wasn't great, but wasn't terrible either. All she could afford on a nurse's salary at Mercy General. Eva showered, washing away the night's chaos, and fell into bed exhausted. Before sleep claimed her, she found herself thinking of the stranger's eyes, the intensity in them during that brief moment of consciousness, as if he'd been memorizing her face. When Eva returned for her next shift, the stranger was gone. "What? Do you mean gone?" she demanded, staring at the empty bed. Maria, the day nurse, shrugged. "He was gone when I checked at noon. No discharge papers, nothing. Security footage shows him walking out on his own at 11:42. That's impossible. He could barely breathe, let alone walk." "Well, he did. And Dr. Vega wants to see you in his office immediately." Eva's stomach dropped. She knew what was coming. "Doctor." Vega didn't bother with pleasantries. "You directly violated protocol, Nurse Morales. You performed procedures on an unidentified patient without proper authorization." "I saved his life," Eva countered, her exhaustion giving way to indignation. "You wasted resources on a John Doe who then disappeared without payment or proper discharge. The board has decided to suspend you for 2 weeks without pay." Eva stood there, stunned. 2 weeks without pay would devastate her already tight budget. Rent was due next week, and her sister Lena's college tuition payment shortly after. "This is unfair," she managed finally. Dr. Vega's expression didn't change. "Consider yourself lucky it's not termination. Clear out your locker today." Walking home that afternoon, Eva felt numb. The suspension would hurt financially, but what bothered her more was the injustice. She would have done the same for any patient, identified or not. That was her job, to save lives, not to check insurance cards while people bled out. In her apartment, she sat at her small kitchen table and calculated how long her savings would stretch. Not long enough. Eva never regretted saving the stranger's life. But as weeks turned into months and then years, with no trace of the mysterious man ever appearing again, she sometimes wondered who he had been and what had happened to him after. He walked out of Mercy General. She would never have guessed that 5 years later their paths would cross again, in circumstances beyond anything she could have imagined. "Welcome to Solace Heights, Ms. Morales." The woman in the crisp gray suit extended her hand. "I'm Vivian Chen, HR Director. We're delighted to have someone with your experience joining our nursing staff." Eva smiled, trying to hide her nervousness as she shook Vivian's hand. 5 years after her suspension from Mercy General, this opportunity felt like winning the lottery. Solace Heights was the newest, most prestigious medical facility in the city, a gleaming monument to healthcare innovation that paid triple what she'd earned at her previous positions. The interview process was extensive, Eva said diplomatically, remembering the 5 rounds of interviews and background checks. Vivian laughed softly. "Mr. Cross is particular about who works here." Eva followed Vivian through marble corridors that bore no resemblance to any hospital she'd ever worked in. The floors gleamed, the lighting was soft and warm rather than harsh fluorescent, and delicate floral arrangements adorned reception areas where patients waited in plush chairs that looked more appropriate for a luxury hotel lobby. "Our philosophy is that healing begins with dignity," Vivian explained. "Each patient room is private, with accommodations for family members who wish to stay overnight." Eva nodded, wondering how much these rooms cost per night. More than she made in a month at her last job, probably. They toured the advanced surgical wing, the rehabilitation facilities with state-of-the-art equipment, and finally the intensive care unit where Eva would be working. "This is Dr. Kim, your supervising physician." Vivian introduced a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Pleasure to meet you," Dr. Kim said. "Your references were impeccable. 5 years at Community Memorial after Mercy General, correct?" "Yes," Eva confirmed, relieved that her suspension hadn't been mentioned. "I specialized in trauma care there." "Excellent. We need that expertise." Dr. Kim glanced at her watch. "I believe you're scheduled to meet Mr. Cross now. He makes a point of welcoming key staff personally." Eva's heartbeat quickened. Nathaniel Cross was a mysterious figure, a billionaire who had seemingly appeared from nowhere 5 years ago and built a healthcare empire. His face rarely appeared in media, and what little she'd heard about him painted the picture of a demanding, exacting man with a vision for revolutionizing patient care. Vivian led her to an elevator that required a special key card. "Mr. Cross's office is on the top floor. He's very interested in meeting you." The elevator ascended silently, opening to reveal a minimalist reception area where a man in a tailored suit waited. "Julian Porter, head of security," he introduced himself with a nod. "This way, please." Eva followed Julian down a hallway lined with abstract artwork. He knocked on a door at the end, opened it without waiting for a response, and announced, "Ms. Morales is here, sir." The office was vast, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A man stood with his back to the door, gazing out at the view. Tall, broad-shouldered, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit. "Thank you, Julian. That will be all." The voice sent a jolt of recognition through Eva, though she couldn't immediately place it. Julian departed, closing the door behind him. The man turned. Time seemed to stop as Eva found herself staring into dark, intense eyes she'd last seen 5 years ago, eyes that had opened briefly on a hospital gurney in the corner of an emergency room. "Ms. Morales," he said softly. "Or may I call you Eva?" Eva couldn't speak. The stranger she'd saved, the nameless man who'd disappeared without a trace, now stood before her as Nathaniel Cross. Billionaire, philanthropist, her new employer. "You," she finally managed. A slight smile touched his lips. "Me." He gestured to a seating area. "Please, sit. Would you like water? Tea? Something stronger, perhaps?" Eva moved to the offered chair on unsteady legs. "Water," she said, her throat suddenly dry. He poured it himself, rather than calling an assistant, his movements deliberate and graceful. No sign remained of the grievously injured man she'd treated. He handed her the glass, their fingers brushing, momentarily. "You don't seem surprised to see me," she observed after taking a sip. Nathaniel sat across from her, studying her face. "I'm not. I've been aware of your career trajectory since Mercy General." "You've been watching me?" The question came out sharper than she intended. "I prefer keeping informed." His expression remained inscrutable. "You saved my life when others deemed it not worth saving. That creates a connection." Ava's mind raced. "Did you arrange this job offer?" "I created this hospital," he replied simply. "Everyone who works here was selected for a reason." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze intensifying. "You cried when you thought I was going to die." Eva felt her cheeks flush. She had cried, a few quiet tears of frustration and determination, as she'd worked to save him, unaware anyone had noticed. "I cry over many patients," she said defensively. "No," he countered softly. "You don't." He stood abruptly, returning to the window. "I'm offering you security, Eva. A salary that reflects your true worth. An apartment in the staff residence building, much closer than your current place in Riverside." The mention of her neighborhood, a detail she hadn't shared during interviews, confirmed. He knew far more about her than she was comfortable with. "Why me?" she asked. "There are thousands of nurses in this city." Nathaniel turned, something vulnerable flashing across his features before his composed mask returned. "Because you saw value in a man who had none. Because you fought for me when no one else would." He approached her chair, standing closer than professional boundaries typically allowed. "Because I need people I can trust absolutely." The intensity in his eyes made Ava's heart race. He was too close, too overwhelming in his presence. Yet she couldn't look away. "The position is yours if you want it," he said. "Along with my personal guarantee of your professional advancement." His hand lifted, hesitating near her face as if he might touch her cheek, but then dropped. He stepped back, creating distance between them. "Think about it overnight. The staff residence is prepared, if you decide to accept." Later that evening, as Eva stood in the luxurious apartment that now awaited her decision, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I still remember the sound of your voice in the darkness." It was the first kindness I'd known in years. Eva stared at the message, her finger hovering over the reply button. Before she could respond, another text appeared. "Whatever you decide, the position remains yours. But I hope you stay. Not yet for me, for what we could create together." 2 weeks into her new position at Solace Heights, Eva noticed the camera in the staff lounge, small, discreet, but unmistakably tracking movement. She'd already spotted similar devices in the hallways, the parking garage, and even the garden area where staff took breaks. "Security is Mr. Cross's priority," Dr. Kim had explained when Eva asked about it. "After what happened to him, it's understandable." What happened to him? Everyone at Solace Heights seemed to reference it obliquely, but no one spoke of it directly. As if the attack on Nathaniel Cross were a sacred text only the initiated could discuss. Eva's phone buzzed. A text from Julian, the ever-present head of security. "Mr. Cross requests your presence for dinner. 8 p.m. Car will collect you, not an invitation." A summons. She'd received similar messages 3 times already, each resulting in long evenings in Nathaniel's penthouse apartment atop the hospital building. Conversations that circled around her life, her past, her ambitions, while he revealed almost nothing of himself. "I'll be there," she replied, wondering if refusing was even an option. At 7:55, Eva emerged from her apartment in the staff residence building, wearing a simple black dress. Julian waited beside a sleek black car, door already open. "Evening, Ms. Morales." "Are you ever off duty, Julian?" she asked, sliding into the back seat. "Not when it concerns Mr. Cross." His expression remained impassive as he closed the door. The penthouse elevator opened directly into Nathaniel's living space, a study in minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city lights. Cool marble floors contrasted with warm wood accents, and every piece of furniture looked both exquisite and rarely used. Nathaniel stood at a glass dining table, pouring red wine into crystal glasses. He'd shed his usual suit jacket, his white shirt rolled at the sleeves to reveal strong forearms, and a hint of the phoenix tattoo she remembered from that night in the emergency room. "Eva," he said, looking up. "Thank you for coming." As if she'd had a choice. "The view is beautiful," she said, approaching the window rather than him. "It reminds me of how far I've come." He joined her, handing her a glass of wine. "And what?" "I left behind." Eva turned to face him. "What did you leave behind, Nathaniel? Who were you before you became this?" She gestured to the penthouse, the hospital below, his entire empire. Something darkened in his eyes. "Someone not worth remembering." "Remember him," she countered. "He was my patient." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Your patient?" "Yes." He moved away, indicating the table set for 2. "Dinner will get cold." Over a meal more exquisite than any restaurant Eva had ever visited, they engaged in what had become their usual dance. He asked questions about her day, her patients, her opinions on hospital procedures. She answered, then attempted to turn the conversation to him, only to receive deflections or vague responses. "You've cut off contact with several former colleagues," he noted, refilling her wine glass. "May I ask why?" Eva stared at him. "How would you know that?" He didn't bother denying it. "I need to ensure your safety." "By monitoring my phone calls?" "My social media." Eva placed her glass down with deliberate control. "That's not protection, Nathaniel. That's surveillance. There's a thin line between the two, a line you've crossed repeatedly." Instead of responding, he rose and walked to a sideboard, returning with a small box. "I have something for you." Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a small pendant, a tiny phoenix rising from stylized flames. "What is this?" she asked, not touching it. "A symbol of protection." He lifted the bracelet. "May I?" Against her better judgment, Eva extended her wrist. His fingers were warm against her skin as he fastened the clasp, lingering longer than necessary. "It's beautiful," she admitted, "but it doesn't answer my concerns." Nathaniel remained close, too close for comfort. 5 years ago, I was left for dead. The people who tried to kill me believed they succeeded. My family... He stopped abruptly. "Your family what?" Eva prompted, suddenly alert. This was the first personal information he'd voluntarily offered. He stepped back, expression shuddering. "Another time, perhaps." His eyes dropped to her lips momentarily. "More wine?" As he turned to reach for the bottle, Eva caught his wrist. "No, you don't get to do that. Offer a glimpse, then retreat. Not anymore." Something changed in the air between them. The constant tension that had simmered beneath their interactions suddenly crackled to the surface. Nathaniel's gaze intensified, dropping again to her lips. He moved closer, one hand coming up to brush her hair back from her face, his touch feather-light. "Eva," he murmured, voice low and rough. They gravitated toward each other, the magnetism between them finally overwhelming the barriers of employer and employee, rescuer and rescued. His lips hovered just above hers, his breath warm against her skin. The moment stretched, suspended in possibility. Then he pulled back, creating distance between them. "Not like this," he said quietly. "Not yet." Eva felt dizzy, whether from the wine or the near kiss she couldn't tell. "I should go." "Stay," he said, the word somewhere between a command and a plea. "Why?" "So you can keep watching me, controlling my environment, deciding who I can talk to." "To keep you safe." "From what?" His expression hardened. "From the people who would hurt you to get to me." Eva gathered her purse, needing space to think clearly. "Good night, Nathaniel." He didn't try to stop her as she walked to the elevator, but his voice followed her. "The car will take you back." In her apartment, Eva kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto the sofa, her mind racing. The bracelet on her wrist caught the light, the phoenix gleaming. On impulse, she reached for her laptop and searched Nathaniel Cross Phoenix Tattoo. Nothing relevant appeared. She tried variations. Cross Family Business, Nathaniel Cross Before Solace Heights, Cross Industries History. Each search yielded only recent news about his healthcare empire, nothing before 5 years ago. She was about to close the laptop when she noticed a folder on the desktop she didn't recognize. "Property of SCH," it read, Solace Heights initials. "Eva." Clicked it open, expecting hospital protocols or orientation materials. Instead, she found herself staring at images of herself. Dozens of them, dating back years. Eva leaving her old apartment. Eva shopping at a grocery store. Eva visiting her sister at college. The oldest photo was labeled with a date 5 years ago, 1 week after the night she had saved his life. "Explain." "This." Eva slammed her laptop on Nathaniel's desk, the folder of surveillance photos open on screen. She'd marched straight to his office at dawn, bypassing security with her medical staff credentials. Nathaniel didn't seem surprised. He closed the document he'd been reviewing and met her gaze steadily. "You've been watching me for 5 years," she continued, her voice shaking. "Following me. Documenting my life like I'm some kind of specimen." "Protection," he said quietly. "Not surveillance. There are photos of me having coffee with friends, shopping for groceries, visiting my sister at college." Eva's hands balled into fists. What possible threat was I facing at the farmer's market 3 years ago? Nathaniel rose from his chair, circling the desk to stand before her. "The threat wasn't to you then. It was to me." "What does that mean?" He exhaled slowly. "Sit down, Eva. Please." Something in his tone, a rare vulnerability, made her comply, though she remained rigid with anger. Nathaniel leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "My birth name isn't Cross, it's Nathaniel Cordova." The name struck Eva with unexpected force. Cordova, one of the wealthiest families in the country, owners of a pharmaceutical empire. "Cordova Pharmaceuticals," she said. "The company that hiked prices on essential medications by 800% 5 years ago. The one that blocked generic alternatives for life-saving drugs." "Yes, your family." "Was my family," he corrected. "Until I threatened to expose their illegal testing practices, price manipulation, and bribery of FDA officials." Eva stared at him, pieces falling into place. "The night I found you, my cousin Adrian arranged it." Nathaniel's voice turned, clinical, detached. "Hired men to abduct me from my apartment, beat me until I agreed to sign documents retracting my claims, and when I refused, he gestured to his chest, where Eva knew a scar still marked the place she'd sutured. They left me for dead outside your hospital. Why not just kill you? Making me disappear completely would raise too many questions. This way, if my body was found, it would look like a random mugging gone wrong. The police would find evidence in my apartment suggesting I had a drug problem, planted, of course. My family would express appropriate shock and grief, then move on. Eva processed this, her anger temporarily displaced by the horror of what he described. How did you get out of the hospital? I was conscious more than you realized. When I heard the doctors discussing transferring me to a private room, I knew I had to leave. If my family discovered I was alive. He shook his head. I had emergency funds, alternate identification. I disappeared and became Nathaniel Cross. Yes, I rebuilt everything from nothing, created new companies, acquired others, then used that wealth to build something meaningful. He gestured toward the window, indicating the hospital below. And me? Where do I fit in this revenge story? Nathaniel's expression softened. You saved more than my life that night, Eva. You saved the man I could become. He moved closer, his voice dropping. I watched you because I needed to ensure my family never connected us. If they discovered you'd helped me, they'd use you to get to me. That doesn't explain 5 years of surveillance. No, he admitted. That was something else. Eva stood, needing to be on equal footing. What? I couldn't stay away. The confession seemed pulled from him unwillingly. You were the only real thing in my new life. The only person who'd shown me kindness without agenda. So you built an entire hospital to what, get close to me? I built it for many reasons. But yes, bringing you here was always part of the plan. Eva laughed bitterly. That's not romantic, Nathaniel. It's obsessive. I know. He reached for her hand, and when she didn't pull away, he traced the phoenix bracelet on her wrist. I've spent 5 years becoming someone worthy of you. By lying, manipulating, controlling every aspect of my environment. Eva pulled her hand away. You don't get to decide what makes you worthy. Nathaniel's composure cracked. Then tell me, what would you have me do? Give it all away? I would. For you, I would burn it to the ground. The raw emotion in his voice silenced her momentarily. Don't want your empire, she said finally. I just want honesty, equality, the right to choose for myself. And if I give you that choice? Now, knowing everything? Eva stepped away, creating distance. I need time to think. She turned to leave, but Nathaniel moved quickly, blocking her path. Not touching her, just standing close. Too close. I've waited 5 years, he said, his voice low. I can wait longer, but don't ask me to stop protecting you. Protection isn't love. It can be part of it. The tension between them escalated, anger and attraction creating a volatile mixture. Eva found herself stepping forward rather than back, challenging him with her proximity. You don't get to control me, she said. I never wanted to control you. His hand moved to her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. I only wanted to deserve you. The electric current between them finally sparked into flame. Eva wasn't sure who moved first. Perhaps they both did. But suddenly, his mouth was on hers, hungry and desperate. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer as years of built-up tension exploded in a kiss that was equal parts anger and desire. He pressed her against the wall, one hand tangled in her hair, the other at her waist. Eva gasped as his lips traveled to her neck, leaving a trail of fire across her skin. She felt his restraint crumbling with each kiss, each touch. Eva. He breathed against her ear, the word both reverent and possessive. The sound of her name on his lips brought clarity. She pushed him back gently, breathless. "This doesn't fix anything," she said. Nathaniel rested his forehead against hers, equally breathless. "I know." Eva slipped from between him and the wall, straightening her clothes. "I need space. Real space. Not the illusion of it while you watch from cameras." He nodded, not fighting her. As she reached the door, her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Eva froze as she read it. "Emergency at student housing. Lena taken to Memorial Hospital. Come now." "What is it?" Nathaniel asked, seeing her expression change. "My sister." Eva showed him the message, panic rising. "I have to go." "I'll drive you," he said immediately. "No, please." Something in his expression stopped her objection. "Let me help." On the drive to Memorial, Eva called the hospital repeatedly, but couldn't get information. Nathaniel made a single call. "This is Cross. I need information on Lena Morales, just admitted." Within moments, he had details. "Food poisoning," he told Eva. "Severe, but not life-threatening." Eva's relief was palpable, but as they neared the hospital, a question surfaced. "How did you have access to her medical information so quickly?" Nathaniel's hesitation told her everything. "You've been monitoring my sister too." His silence was confirmation enough. 3 days after Lena was discharged from the hospital, Eva made her decision. She packed her essentials into a single suitcase, leaving behind the designer clothes that had mysteriously appeared in her closet and the expensive electronics that had been standard issue for staff apartments. Her resignation letter was brief, effective immediately. "Thank you for the opportunity." She left it on the kitchen counter, alongside her hospital ID and the Phoenix bracelet. When the knock came at her door, she wasn't surprised to find Julian standing there, his usual stoic expression in place. "Ms. Morales," he said, "Mr. Cross would like to see you before you leave." "I'm not interested." Julian didn't move. "He said you would say that. He also said to tell you it's about your sister's tuition." Eva's stomach tightened. "What about it?" "I'm just the messenger," Julian replied. 15 minutes of your time. That's all he asks." The elevator ride to the penthouse felt interminable. When the doors opened, Eva was surprised to find the usually immaculate space in disarray. Files and papers covered the dining table, laptops open to financial documents, legal contracts spread across the sofa. Nathaniel stood by the window, his back to her. He'd abandoned his usual suit for jeans and a simple black t-shirt. He looked thinner, more angular, somehow less polished than the man she'd come to know. "You wanted to see me," Eva said, not moving from the elevator. He turned. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and stubble covered his jaw. "Thank you for coming." Julian mentioned Lena's tuition. Nathaniel gestured to the dining table. "I'm transferring ownership of everything." Eva approached cautiously, scanning the documents. Property deeds, financial statements, legal transfers of ownership. All bearing her name. "What is this?" "Freedom," he said simply. "Yours and mine." "I don't understand." "Solace Heights, the research division, the patient care endowment. They're all yours now." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've established trusts for your sister's education and for the families of every staff member. The board can't touch them." Eva stared at him. "You can't just give away a billion-dollar corporation." "I can. I have." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "The lawyers are displeased." "Why would you do this?" "Because holding you through obligation isn't having you at all." Nathaniel's voice was raw, stripped of its usual controlled precision. "If the price of your freedom is everything I've built, I'll pay it." Eva circled the table, examining the documents. Her name everywhere, authority transferred completely. "Where will you go?" she asked. "Away. Somewhere my family can't find me." "Somewhere I can," he trailed off. "Start over," she supplied. "Survive," he corrected. There's no starting over for me, Eva. This, he gestured to the penthouse, the hospital below, was my one chance at redemption. Eva felt something breaking inside her chest. Despite his manipulation, his obsession, his control, she couldn't deny the good he'd done. Solace Heights served thousands, including those who couldn't afford care elsewhere. The research division was pioneering treatments that would save countless lives. You could stay, she offered. As a colleague, not an owner, Nathaniel shook his head. We both know that wouldn't work. He approached her slowly. The papers only need your signature. Julian will help with the transition. He was close enough now that she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Close. Enough that she remembered the heat of his kiss, the desperation in his touch. And if I don't sign? Then it all goes to the foundation. Either way, I'm gone. Eva felt tears threatening. This is emotional manipulation, Nathaniel. No, he countered gently. This is setting you free. From me. From my family's potential retaliation. From all of it. He reached for her hand, stopping just short of touching her. I've arranged an account for you. Enough to live comfortably. Run away, start over somewhere else if that's what you want. I don't want your money. Then give it away. His voice caught. But take it, Eva. Please, let me do this one thing right. She saw it then. The truth behind his actions. Not just obsession or control, but a broken man who'd never learned how to love properly, trying desperately to protect what mattered most to him. Eva turned away, walking to the vast windows overlooking the city. Her city now, apparently, if she chose to accept his offer. Do you regret it? She asked. Building all this to get close to me? I regret how I did it, he answered honestly. Not why. Eva closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision before her. When she opened them again, she saw her reflection in the glass, and behind her, Nathaniel, watching her with an expression of such naked longing it made her heart. Okay, I need to go home, she said finally. My real home. If the words hurt him, he didn't show it. Of course, the car is waiting. Eva gathered her purse, moving toward the elevator. Goodbye, Nathaniel. Goodbye, Eva. The elevator doors closed, on his solitary figure, still standing amid the wreckage of his empire. Her old apartment felt small, dusty, and achingly familiar. Eva dropped her suitcase by the door and sank onto the worn sofa, emotionally exhausted. Everything in the tiny living room reminded her of the life she'd built before Nathaniel entered it. The faded armchair she'd found at a thrift store. The bookshelf her father had built before he died. The framed nursing degree on the wall, her proudest achievement. And yet, every item also reminded her of what she now lacked: security, purpose, the electric connection to a man who'd moved heaven and earth to be near her. A knock at the door startled her. Eva opened it to find Julian, holding a thick envelope. Mr. Cross asked me to deliver this, he said, and to tell you he's leaving tonight. Eva accepted the envelope. Where is he going? He didn't say. Julian hesitated. I've worked for him, since he became Nathaniel Cross. I've never seen him care about anyone the way he cares about you. After Julian left, Eva opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten in Nathaniel's precise script. Eva, if hating me makes you free, let it be my punishment. But if there is still love, even buried beneath the hurt I've caused, find me, where it all began. And beneath the letter was a deed to a small property in the countryside, hours from the city. The date of purchase was exactly 1 week after she had saved his life. The country road wound through rolling hills, each curve taking Eva further from the city and deeper into uncertainty. The GPS on her phone indicated she was close, just 2 more miles to the address on the deed. 3 weeks had passed since Nathaniel's departure. 3 weeks of Eva attempting to return to normal life while legal teams arranged the official transfer of Solace Heights to her control. 3 weeks of battling her own conflicted heart. She'd almost deleted Julian's text that morning. He's been there all this time. Alone. The road ended at a simple wrought iron gate, standing open. Beyond it, a gravel drive led to a modest farmhouse, nestled among mature oak trees. No security cameras, no surveillance equipment. Just a house and land, isolated and peaceful. Eva parked beside a weathered pickup truck she didn't recognize. The sound of her car door closing echoed in the country silence. The front door opened before she reached it. Nathaniel stood in the doorway, but not the Nathaniel she knew. This man wore faded jeans and a simple flannel shirt, his hair longer, his face leaner. A short beard covered his jaw and his hands bore the calluses of physical labor. Their eyes met, and neither spoke for a long moment. "You found me," he said finally, his voice rough with disuse. "Your note wasn't exactly subtle." A small smile touched his lips. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I." He stepped back, inviting her in without words. The interior was as unpretentious as the exterior. Comfortable but simple furniture, wooden floors, walls lined with books. Natural light streamed through large windows, illuminating a space that felt more like a home than his penthouse ever had. "Would you like some tea?" he asked, moving toward the kitchen. "Or coffee?" "Tea," Eva replied, following him. "This place, it's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Another fortress, another display of wealth and power." Nathaniel filled a kettle, movements unhurried. "I bought this place the week after you saved me, before I had wealth or power again." He glanced at her. "This was meant to be my ending, if things had gone differently." "Your ending?" "A quiet place to disappear." He placed 2 mugs on the counter. "Instead, it became my beginning." Eva watched him prepare the tea, struck by how different he seemed, more grounded, more human. "You've been here all this time?" He nodded, building a simpler life, while giving away an empire. The empire was never the point. He handed her a steaming mug. It was just a means to an end. And what was the end, Nathaniel? What was it all for? Instead of answering, he led her to the back porch that overlooked sloping meadows and a small pond. They sat in rocking chairs the afternoon, sun warm on their faces. "When I left the hospital that night," he began, "I had nothing. No identity, no future. Just pain and rage and a will to survive. I drove until I found this place for sale, paid cash from my emergency funds, hid here while I healed." He sipped his tea. "I used to sit right here and plan my revenge. Against your family? At first. But revenge is a poison." His eyes met hers. "It was you who changed that." "Me? I wasn't even here." "No, but the memory of you was. The nurse who fought for a stranger's life when everyone else had given up." His voice softened. "I kept thinking, what would that woman think of what I'm becoming?" Eva felt something shift inside her, a piece of the puzzle falling into place. "So, you built Solace Heights. To be worthy of the memory of you," he finished. "And yes, eventually, to find you again." He set his mug down. "I didn't know how to love properly, Eva. I only knew how to protect, to control, to build fortresses. And now I'm learning." He gestured to the simple home, the land around them. No cameras, no security, just me, trying to become someone better. Eva studied him, seeing the change in his posture, his expression, the ease in his movements. "You look healthier. I feel more myself than I have in years." He leaned forward. "Eva, I need to say this clearly. I don't expect anything from you. The hospital, the assets, they're yours without condition. If you walk away now, that doesn't change. Then why ask me to find you? Because I had to tell you the truth, face to face. He held her gaze steadily. I love you. Not as something to possess or protect, but as someone to cherish. Someone to stand beside, not shield behind me. The words hung in the air between them, honest and unadorned. Eva set her mug down and stood, walking to the porch railing. The land stretched before her, bathed in golden afternoon light. I've been running Solace Heights these past weeks, she said. The staff respects me. The board listens to me. The patients get exceptional care. I'm glad. But something was missing. She turned to face him. I kept waiting to feel complete, victorious, to enjoy my freedom. And I realized I wasn't there because of debt or obligation or manipulation. Her voice trembled slightly. I was there because it mattered. Because it helped people. Because parts of it, parts of the life you built, were good. She moved toward him, stopping within arm's reach. I'm not here because I owe you, Nathaniel. I'm here because I love you, despite everything. Despite the manipulation and control and fear. I love the man who built a hospital to help people. Who gave everything away when he realized it was wrong. Who's sitting here now without armor or defenses? Nathaniel stood slowly, as if afraid she might vanish. Eva. She closed the distance between them, her hands finding his face, fingers tracing the unfamiliar beard. This is my choice, freely made. His arms encircled her waist, tentative at first, then drawing her closer. Their lips met in a kiss unlike their first, not desperate or angry, but tender, unhurried. His hands traced the curve of her spine while hers slid into his hair, each touch an affirmation. They moved inside as evening fell, settling on the worn sofa. Nathaniel pulled her against him, his kisses traveling from her lips to her neck, lingering there as she sighed. It's different now, she whispered, as his hands caressed her shoulders, her back. This isn't rescue or repayment. What is it then? He asked, his voice hushed against her skin. Choice, she answered, her fingers tracing the scar on his chest through his shirt. My choice. Our choice. Months later, Eva stood in her office at Solace Heights, watching the sun set over the city. The hospital thrived under her leadership. Its mission expanded to serve more patients regardless of their ability to pay. Weekends found her at the farmhouse, where Nathaniel remained out of the public eye, consulting on hospital research remotely, finding peace in his simpler existence. On this particular evening, she drove to the farmhouse earlier than usual. Nathaniel waited for her in the garden, surrounded by the flowers he'd planted and nurtured through the changing seasons. He knelt before her, not with a ring, but with a small copper key resting in his palm. The last door between us, he said softly, the door to our home, and only you can decide when to open it. Eva smiled, taking the key and pulling him to his feet. She kissed him deeply, passionately, then whispered against his lips, I open it today.